Hello, gorgeous ones, and welcome to day 3 of the Awakening Summit. I am super excited for our interview today with Kavita Arora. She is a business strategist and the founder of the Epic Dream Academy. Hello, gorgeous one. Welcome.
Hello, Leigh Jane. I was going to call you Leigh Ann for some reason. Wonderful to see you.
You too, my love. You too. And that is gorgeous lighting where you are. You're looking like this amazing goddess that is glowing in all of her glory.
Thank you.
Suits the title. So welcome, my loves. Welcome. I really loved reading Kavita's chapter. And if you haven't done that yet, then please hop on and give it a read. And I'm going to start all the way from the beginning and really dive into who you are and how you got here. You are all about operating from the quantum field. You're all about doing life and business from a place of bliss, from a place of pleasure and play and ease. And I love the strategies that you talk about. Now, just starting off right at the beginning, the introduction, which I'm actually going to read to your chapter, is the reality of where we're at right now. So you start off by saying this: we're in a time of unprecedented uncertainty and possibility. Institutions and structures are crumbling around us. We're rethinking how we relate to work, education, and other people. And this is it, yeah? This is the reality. Now, I'm so interested to hear from you, Kavita, how you got to where you are now. You refer to bliss and pleasure a lot. You refer to freedom a lot and self-expression, yet your cultural history of being Indian is very different and doesn't actually support the work that you do today. So can you let us, our viewers, know how you got to where you are now?
It's been a tough and interesting path. It was an interesting choice that my soul made, the universe made, however you look at it, to choose to be born into a traditional Indian home as a woman with a very strong personality and strong voice. And it was very confusing because my culture is very repressed sexually, very controlling of their women. Many cultures are like this, right? It's not mine. It's not unique to mine. And at the same time, I was brought to the United States to grow up. And everyone around me had all these freedoms and expression that I sort of had and sort of didn't. It was very confusing. I wasn't supposed to date, though everyone around me was by the time we got to high school. I expressed myself very strongly in a number of ways. I was a debater. I gave talks in high school. I had no problem public speaking. So there was the way in which I was very expressed. And you would never imagine that there was a lot that I was pushing down because I was so extroverted and comfortable speaking in front of others. And so the persona itself that I had lent itself to me not even noticing all of the things I was pushing down and that I wasn't saying until I reached a point in life where I'd been playing the role. I'd been doing the things I was supposed to do. I'd been pushing down how I really felt or putting it in the margins, doing it on the side, my spirituality, and then valuing my linear mind and my intellect over everything else because that's what's valued by Western society. And it was very confusing, but at some point I arrived at a place where I'd done all of the things. I had, a home that was $1 million. It cost $1 million. It was 32 years old. By this time I was in my mid to late 30s, and I had like a beautiful child, a handsome husband who made a lot of money. I was making a lot of money, and I was miserable other than my son. right? Like he was the bright light in my life, but nobody could tell. You know, like nobody could tell how sad I was. And I was binge drinking and I was binge eating to numb the feelings until I got to a point where I had a huge breakdown. And there was a long story that went with it, but I had a DUI. I had a car accident. I could have killed myself and other people. Huge wake-up call of pay attention. What is it? What is it that I wasn't expressing, that I didn't feel the freedom to share? And so that's why you hear those themes reverberate, because it was quite an awakening, you know, the way it all came about. Yeah.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. And this is it as human beings, which is quite challenging to accept, that as human beings, we've got to break down to break through. And it would be really wonderful if we could change this way of being, that, and this is the work that you do, that it's not about bashing your head against the wall. It's not about having the DUI or killing a whole bunch of people because you're driving illegally under the influence. It's about catching yourself before you crash.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Like, did I really need to have the crash, or could I have learned the lesson without the crash? I want all of you to learn the lesson without the crash. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what this means to you, and, you know, around the quantum field and quantum prosperity and quantum productivity. What does this mean to you, and how can your everyday person tap right into the quantum field and create create the productivity that they're seeking in order to create the results in their businesses without having to get to the crash point?
Great question. So one of the pieces, and I know you love to talk about this too, Leigh Jane, it's the pleasure component, the karma component. So there are 4 pillars of prosperity. Karma is one of them, right? There's dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Dharma is your purpose. Artha is the means or the wealth, the physical means to fulfill your purpose. Kama is your pleasure. Moksha is your pleasure, your spiritual liberation. These are key pillars that I teach from Vedic wisdom. That's where yoga comes from. India, you know, it's permeating. And then bringing in the pleasure piece, emphasizing that the pillar of pleasure, this was deeply missing for me. And what I would share with anyone listening, it's likely missing for most. We could all, I think, use more pleasure. And it seems to me that society today, it's permeated from the West to the whole world of just such an emphasis on the work ethic and the pushing and the achievement. And there's so much disconnection with self and forcing yourself to do things that don't resonate. And so essentially there was a huge gap in my relationship to pleasure, my relationship to my sexuality, shame, you know, guilt. Like there are all of these pieces that kept me in, and they keep us all in. The shame, the guilt, the supposed to's, the shoulds, these are all elements of the patriarchy that we've internalized, and they don't have to control us. We opt in because we don't question these beliefs. So I didn't even know that I had internalized all of these pieces. So for anyone who's listening, look at, where are you cutting yourself off from you? Where are you maybe being unkind to yourself in the way you speak to yourself? Where are you not giving yourself a break, or other people? Or maybe you're erring on the other side. Some people just get lost in the pleasure and then don't do anything, right? So there's the other side too, which I've been lost in. Not very often, but every now and then that has happened where I'm like, oh, I can't go back to work. This has been so much fun. But you don't want to feel that way either. So it's like this beautiful balance of creating a life where you are weaving in, yeah, I call them daily nirvana practices. So it's like weaving in your gorgeous, nourishing morning practice. And then, maybe you have some little rituals throughout the day, and that those can nourish you. They can all create a state, they help create, augment or create a state of bliss, a state of flow. Like everything can potentially become a pleasurable experience if you are inside of your dharma, if you aren't denying yourself, if you are expressing yourself. And then the working hard then becomes discipline. It's like you are feeling so happy. Discipline comes easily. We've all had these experiences where we just drop into that state where time just seems to go so fast because wow, you're just so absorbed in what you're doing. And I want all of us to feel this way every day. That's how we should be feeling. And that doesn't mean we don't have things to do that we don't like doing. It doesn't mean it means that when you are mostly using yourself in a way that is congruent with your dharma, congruent with what you were designed to do, that even those things that we don't like can become easy and can become in flow and can become part of the bliss plus the discipline and be in the state of discipline. It can become the flow and the focus. So there's a focus and there's an ease with even the way I'm working with a coach right now, and one of the things that she recommended was okay, she knew I had a lot of interviews today. So she said, well, why don't you just approach the interviews from a place of ease, sit back in your chair and just give. And then it's not oh my goodness, I have this many interviews on a particular day. It's there was a way in which I enjoy each interview, but there was a way in which I then stepped into more ease. Okay, I'm just relaxed here chatting with you. And then there's a way in which we put out too much energy, and we're giving too much energy, a lot of us, especially women. And if we can there are a lot of places where we can just receive. Even I can receive from you rather than feeling like I'm pouring in, right? And it can be a back and forth. I can actually feel replenished after an interview, which I often do because the conversation is so juicy. So the same experiences that can seem so draining in a different context can actually feed you. So I'm sharing in a number of different I answered your question and beyond, so I will pause now.
Yes, you did. And on this receptivity piece and the structure that is required for you to be able to be receptive comes that layer of perception as well. And what's required is alignment. And looking at these pillars that you speak about, your Dharma, your Artha, the Kama and Moksha, and how they align with the work that you bring in around discipline. And what are the other three? What do you name them, Kavita?
Oh gosh, I don't know what list you're looking at because I weave concepts differently. But so I'll just describe the.
Well, hold on, because this is a really important question that I'd love to get to before you dive into it further. So there are the 4 pillars that you've learned about through your culture, through what you were taught by your parents. Within that structure, the societal structure of what it means to grow up in an Indian household. And what you've brought in is what you refer to as your quantum prosperity and productivity. And you call it discipline, planifesting, Wealth Academy, and Soul Driven Success. Now, what I'm super interested to hear about is your perception of the 4 pillars that you learned about as a young girl. Because one of these pillars, and I'm going to bring it up because I can't remember all of this stuff, but one of these pillars is exactly what you spoke about at the beginning, which is karma, which is pleasure, play, delight, desire, and sensual gratification. Now, your parents taught you the meaning of these pillars, yet you weren't able to embody them. There was a structure, it sounds like, in your home that didn't enable you, that didn't create the time and space for you to embody the meaning of the teachings. So how did this impact your life, other than addictions that you played with and walking a path that wasn't yours? How did it impact you so that you've landed in this spot now to be able to take your own meaning with your own perception, inject it into business and life, and embody it?
Great question. Great question. So it's interesting in the areas of Artha, the physical means. I was given what I required. In the area of Dharma, my parents define it differently. They define Dharma as duty. I do not define it as duty. I don't believe that it's a full enough or accurate enough a translation. So according to them, my duty is to follow the path as outlined by my parents. So you're talking about beautiful Vedic Sanskrit concepts are now tainted by the patriarchy. That's how I look at it. I don't blame my parents for these beliefs. They didn't make them up. They did the best that they could with what they knew. You look at the concept of kama and the pleasure. As far as my parents were concerned, I had plenty of pleasures in my life, lots of luxuries. They grew up poor. I grew up in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. I went to a private school. I have an Ivy League education. I had plenty of pleasure and luxuries in my life, according to them. What I did not have is sexual freedom. What I had was sexual repression, but that didn't occur to them as any kind of issue with Gama. I was supposed to enjoy sexual pleasure only in the context of my marriage. So I was given those 4 pillars as far as, they were concerned. But what unfolded for me is these pillars, these things, these very pieces that my dad taught me are what saved my life, because I looked to them. And I said, Dharma doesn't mean duty. Dharma means I am divinely designed for a purpose. I have a calling. There are certain things I can do that others can't do, and vice versa. What are those things? I'm going to activate them, and I'm on a mission to helping others to do that too. What is your true calling? Not just the duty that is put on you by society or by your parents. And I am very fortunate that I live in a country where I can explore this, where I have the means to explore this as a colored woman. I'm very fortunate. The fact is that I also had a lot of trouble getting to this place. It's been a fight and a battle. The pieces around the Dharma have been costly. My parents do wonder, why did they pay for an expensive Ivy League education and a law degree when I'm not really using them directly? So there is pain for them around that. There's been pain for me I've had to just be okay with the fact that my parents are unhappy with this choice. They would prefer that I were in a more traditional job, that I was just working at a law firm or being a corporate lawyer. That has been painful. It has been very painful to have an identity of having had to lie throughout my teens and my 20s about my dating life. And then how that identity introduces this aspect, this issue, this dynamic of looking externally for approval. And being defined codependent first with my parents, then with my husband, and then unhooking that dynamic, self-referencing, internally referencing for my approval, my choices. And then when I do that, I'm a better human. But I didn't know how to do any of that. I was so externally referenced, and so many of us are. We're looking outside to see if we're okay. And if I'm looking outside to see if I'm okay, I'm actually not okay, because that's not what the outside wants me to do. And it's a very hard journey. If you're born gay and you're told to be straight, it feels that way to me. I was born a particular way, and I didn't fit anything that I was much of what I was supposed to be. And it's been very painful to be that, to almost destroy myself and then to resurrect myself based upon learning to trust me, which is something I wasn't really quite taught. So, yeah.
An amazing journey. Absolutely incredible. Incredible. And so there's no surprise that you've dived into the quantum field, because you got to a point where you were saying, well, I don't want it to be hard. I don't want to crash. I want to be who I am, and I want to do it the easiest way possible. And how can I do that? So
yes,
for people who are wanting to step out of the norm and who are wanting to expand within their businesses and in their lives, what is your guidance around them stepping into this world of the quantum field to enable them to move through a transition of expansion that is much easier than just the 3D reality? What is the entry point for them to begin on this journey of expansion, the blissful way?
Okay, thank you. That's a great question. So the mistake I think that a lot of people make is, again, they look externally for what can I do out there. And I would suggest to go inward, to ask yourself, ask yourself first, where are you at? Like, how lit up are you? If you're not lit up, ask yourself why you're not lit up. What would light you up? Just start there. It's all about what lights up for you externally. If nothing is lighting up for you externally, then there's work to do in your gamma and your pleasure and your connection to yourself, right? So that's where you start, because you want to look to your heart and your soul for that guidance. And if we haven't been using it, if we've been in our heads too long, we can be very rusty. And that's why as people get older, they don't have much energy. They become kind of lifeless after a while. And because they're not doing the things that light them up. So the first place to look is, what is it that lights you up? What do you dream about? What are the dreams that you dreamt when you were young, that you told yourself you couldn't have, that you didn't pursue, and now you're sad and you don't even let yourself think about it anymore because that's not impossible. Why bother thinking about that? All of those things, go find them. Gather them up like they're treasures, because they are clues and they are treasures. And if you hold them like that, they will begin to show up in your world. And it can be that simple, but it has to start with this starting to believe again, because everything is energy, and as we go through life, we just become more and more dense. Matter is the densest form of energy, and we just become more and more dense, more and more contracted. And then we're like this in our lives. And then we wonder why nothing happy is happening. But if we expand, if we open up, like this, right? Like, just all it is expanding your energy, amplifying who you are, the best parts of you, your light. As you do that, possibilities immediately start to light up for you externally as your energy goes up. And then there's okay, now things are lighting up. So there's the dream you now have. There's what you see around you and all of the things that tell you why you can't have that dream. Ignore what you see outside. Close your eyes again. Everything you see outside you is your past, and it's over. And you can erase it if you wish. It's hard to do, but you can. It's really, you are pure energy and potential. So close your eyes again and ask yourself, what version of yourself can create that dream? What's the difference between you right now and that person, that future self? Because you can put that future right into the present in the quantum.
I love that so much. When it's all going to shit, just close your eyes. When things are not working, just lie down and rest. When you're not feeling like you're in flow, just have a sleep. Have a sleep for a moment and come into your own space and be in your own world. And I know, there's this part in your chapter where you talk about, you said everything looked great on the outside, but on the inside, I was miserable with my work and my marriage. I had a self-hating inner dialogue about my body and I felt like I was dying inside. You mentioned offline that an experience within your physical took you over for a long period of time as a young adult. And there was this physical feeling of a separation between your right brain and your left brain.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the attention that you were paying to your external environment. What was the physical manifestation of answering to the external environment as opposed to coming home to your calling? What was happening in your body?
Okay, that's a very good question. And what the first thing I want to say about this is also the things that go on when we are in our teens and our 20s and the ways in which we adapt. I'm not making myself wrong or any of you wrong for any of the ways that you have adapted to your circumstances. So there were things that I did in my 20s that were necessary for me to do. I used to beat up on myself of my 20s. Why didn't I know better? And so as I tell this story, I want you to know that that is not the perspective I'm coming from any longer. I'm coming from this perspective of a lot of love, of I did the best I could at the time. And at the time, my parents disapproved of the fact when I was 20 that I had a non-Indian boyfriend. And from that, I'm 50 now. I've had headaches since I was 20. And what I've discovered using the quantum field in my healing process, it's been my partner and my friend, and miracles are occurring. There's been an unraveling of a lot of what happened to me in my teens and 20s and all the emotions that I pushed down. So what I've discovered in this end of the process as my body is healing is that I had all these blockages in my sinuses and I don't know what the passages are, but between like my pineal gland that's in here, like it in the center of my head to like all throughout my right brain. Like there was like the blood flow in this area was a lot lower. So my creativity, my intuition, my body needed to put blocks on those parts of me so that I could continue on the path that was set in front of me, because that was all there. Those were my only options, or so it seemed. So in this healing process now, and there's also been a lot of blocks that I placed, or that you could say patriarchy placed. I don't know who placed. In my womb area, in my yoni, I have a really big energy. I have a huge sexual energy. I was not supposed to have that. It terrified my parents. I was quite beautiful as a teenager. I got a lot of attention. I wasn't supposed to get that attention. So there were all of these ways in which white women around me learned to value themselves, their beauty, learned how to play with their sexuality, learned how to flirt, learned how, whatever it was, right? I didn't have any of those skills, and I wasn't really supposed to be beautiful or sexual. So I never really actually even got to feel that way because I wasn't supposed to be admired. So there are all these experiences that seem very normal and natural that a lot of people have and that I didn't get to have. And so there are gaps that I'm seeing now at the age of 50 as I heal myself in my own development, in my own relationship to myself. There's access that I now have to my intuition, to my creativity that is opening up. I mean, there was an experience just right over there where like my husband held me as I cried in the morning after 2 weeks of quantum healing, where like there was liquid that felt like it was pouring from inside of my head, the deepest part of the wounding, because it was so painful for me to feel that separated from my parents when I was in my 20s. The only way I could cope was to, like, it was a lot of energy. And then the poor body has to figure out, well, how do we go forward? So huge pain that is now being relieved. I mean, I could just go on and on, so I will pause, but yeah.
Welcome to the quantum, sister. Welcome to the quantum, where we can release and transmute and transform in really, really short periods of time. This path of, this awakening and this birthing of a new earth, we're at a point of evolution where we can accelerate the process in order to, you and I are both on the same path, and most of the women in this space and our viewers are in the same path, that the work that we're doing is all around, the sustainable development of humanity and the planet, ensuring that the evolution of being human is such that it's an enjoyable and happy experience, that it's not about conforming to society. So tell us, my love, for the viewers who are wanting to connect more deeply in with you and learn more from your work and understand these 4 pillars and move into quantum prosperity and productivity, so that they can build and grow their businesses in the most delicious way possible through the pathway of bliss. What is their entry point? How can they connect with you? Where do they start?
Where we start is I'm doing a masterclass next week on November 18th, and it's a masterclass in the quantum feminine productivity and prosperity. And it's going to go deep into, activating this energy for you. What is the process? How do you navigate this place inside yourself of the gap between the version of you that can create this magic and the version of you that's here now? How do you activate the energies, the embodied wisdom of the divine feminine, using some archetypes of the divine feminine? So we're essentially going to explore we'll explore the 4 pillars of prosperity as well more deeply. So it's activating these pieces so you leave this masterclass with an understanding of how you can use the quantum field to help you create your quantum leap. And I'm not speaking just quantum leap like big leap. I'm talking actual quantum leap, like your energy shifts and new futures just are opening up for you. They're just available now because you are different. And this class is accessible. There's a link. It's bit.ly, bit.ly/quantum class, QUANTUM class.
Beautiful, my love. And yeah, excuse me, if you can drop that link in the Facebook group as well, so that people have got access to it. Sounds delicious. I'm all about the deliciousness. You're all about the deliciousness. And yes, let's do this life in a pleasure-filled way, because why would we not? Why would we not?
Yes.
Thank you, gorgeous one. It's been amazing chatting to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your wisdom. Enjoy the rest of the summit, gorgeous ones. We've still got another 4 or 5 days left. There is so much scrumptiousness happening here. I hope that you've enjoyed the interviews up until now, and we will be back very soon with more. Thank you so much, Kavita.
Thank you, Leigh Jane. It was really great to be with you. Your questions are amazing, and you're an awesome interviewer.
Excellent. How much fun. Good to know. New skills in the toolbox, right? We don't know things until we actually try them. So thank you. And thank you for being so open to just sharing on the spot and allowing whatever to come through in this moment. I'll see you very soon.
See you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.